Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. Just being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 3 finale of Dark Winds. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's start off with the Dr. Reynolds side of things with Joe and Chi going after him. But obviously he's patching himself up and he finds his way over to Teddy. I kind of thought okay, maybe we won't have to worry about it because he told Teddy to kind of pack up and maybe leave. But sadly, Dr. Reynolds caught up to her and we know he's armed. That situation played out like I thought. Well, it didn't. I knew it'd end with her dying. I thought he'd intentionally kill her to keep her mouth shut because at first you don't know what he knows at the time, but he doesn't know that the cops know it was him. When he had that, every time he dealt with Joe, he was covered up. He was covered up during his shootout with Jim, so he doesn't know that they pieced it together. He also doesn't know that Teddy knows about all of it, the Ernesto of it all, too. It just, for her, it's I sacrificed so much. I gave up my own research and everything to go with you because I believed in you and I followed you. And not only was that all a lie, you also murdered Ernesto. You're trying to murder George. And he's trying to convince her because I think he was going to try and leave town. He's trying to set up we could work somewhere else. Either he didn't want her to stick around here as for her to end up finding out the truth about everything. Because he still was going to have to go kill George. But I think either he was going to be all right, I'm going to leave George to be a loose end, which I highly doubt it. And we should go now. But I think it's more likely he's setting up future dig stuff. Try to pretend everything's fine. Then he'll go off, kill George, and then be on his merry way. Once again, he doesn't know what the police and Teddy knows. But the situation didn't play out exactly what I thought it would because I thought he'd pull the gun on her and shoot her. But it's no, he ended up she smacked her head on the corner of a table when they were struggling over their phone. I thought, okay, maybe she's just knocked out and he'll leave and she'll be fine. Nope. The moment he puts the do not disturb sign on the door, I was he's going to take her body. At first I was kind of concerned. I'm you don't think he's going to dismember her or something, right? It's no, I think he's just probably wrapped her up in a carpet or blanket and put her in the back of the car. But yeah, Joe, Gordo, as well as Chi are all waiting at the train station trying to get to George before Reynolds, and it's well, we know Dr. Reynolds and George, they're going to both be here, so we got to bide our time. It did lend itself to this interesting conversation between Gordo and Joe, where it's Gordo's been married 42 years, Joe's been married 24. He talked about how he met Emma. They met actually in college because she made a native club for their people, especially because Joe said he lost connections with his people because of the war. He's the war beat the native out of me, with all of that going on. And so for him, it was a situation of it allowed him to reconnect in a way he never thought would be possible after everything. And I can see also why, obviously Emma saved him in a lot of regards. It's I would have lost connection with my people completely. I kind of had, but I was able to reconnect because of Emma and just how special and important she is to him, in that regard. So, but it's hey, Gordo's trying to tell him one day she'll be back, but Joe's just not so sure. He hopes, but he doesn't know. But we'll say that conversation. We'll table that conversation to the end of the episode. But other than that, it's this whole cat and mouse game between Reynolds and George. George is trying to avoid everybody, including the cops, because I think for him it's just I need to get away because the cops might want to keep me here, and the longer they keep me here, the more likely Dr. Reynolds is going to find me again. I need to bounce. I need to go. I need to disappear. He's just kind of in flight mode. But Reynolds does catch up to him. Luckily, they're on the train. George, but Leaphorn and Chi are on the train too. And so it comes down to a standstill where Reynolds has George, but eventually lets him go because he's blaming. He's this is his fault if they hadn't done what they did. But it's no, this isn't their fault. You were the one that was in the wrong in the beginning. Your decisions are what kind of snowballed this, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But he lets George go because he's right, there's already been enough blood spilled in his hands, because even he recognizes how effed up it is that he did kill a kid and now he's trying to do it again. And it's just what's the point? I'm already caught. And so he was trying to do a suicide by cop situation. But you could tell Joe didn't want to do it, especially with everything he's less likely to want to pull the trigger, considering this entire season was him being haunted by the whole BJ Vines of it all. So he was hesitant to want to pull the trigger. Luckily, he didn't have to be the one to do it. It was Chi who did it, and I think it is. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. That might be the. I'm trying to remember. Is that the first time Chi's killed one? Like it is a. It was a. God, what's the cop term for it? I guess justified kill. I guess would be the term. I don't remember. But I was trying to remember like that term, but it's like, yeah, like he would be cleared of that because it's like, right, but like I think it's important that Chi's the one that did it and not Joe, with just everything Joe went through this season. But I'm trying to remember whether or not, because there was that FBI agent from season 1. I was like, I think, is it Chi the one that killed him? I don't remember, because I was trying to figure out whether this was the first time like Jim has ever had to kill anyone. That's what I'm trying to remember. And so, like, obviously it stays with him, like, I did what I did. And they both knew what the situation was, but he left them no choice. He put them in a position where they had to take him down, so. But, like, as I was talking about, like, George kind of being in that flight mode, he kind of expands upon it a little bit about blaming himself for everything. Because he's like, I'm the reason why Ernesto died. He's like, I'm the one that dragged Ernesto there. But Joe said, like, yes, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have been up there. But your friend was killed by a guy doing a bad thing. And you shouldn't blame yourself for that. But he's like, I do. And Joe's like, I get that. Having, that guilt has stayed with him with the whole BJ Vines of it all. So he's kind of going through a similar thing. But I think that's also why George wanted to flee. He wanted to get away from everything. His brother, his dad. I mean, not only was he trying to get away from Reynolds, but I think he was also trying to get away from himself. The guilt. It wasn't just about, like, Reynolds was kind of like also the personification of him running away, not only from a bad guy trying to kill you, but also your guilt over the whole situation. That's why, like, running away at home was kind of like, well, it was his best way to get away, but like I said, also from his guilt. And I thought it was interesting where Jim and Gordo are talking. He's like, what do you think they're talking about over there? And he's like, oh, those things that that we mortals can't control. He's like, I expect something like that. And that look on Jim's face kind of made me think, like, once again, we don't really know what Jim knows about the BJ Vine situation. He might know more than he kind of lets on or has said. But I think also, like, after the Reynolds thing, like, I don't know how much that's going to carry with him. But we'll see what the future holds. But I thought it was interesting when, well, I'll save the closing storylines for later, and then, but for now, I'll circle over to the Bernadette side of things, as she's getting about to be buried alive because Budge loves dealing with people that way, because I guess it's less trace evidence or whatever. But whatever the case may be, guy's a sociopath, obviously. But the fact is, he revels in it, and the fact is that he's like, talking about, like, oh, I know you're thinking to yourself, why did this happen to me? I don't deserve this. He's like, there's a word for people like that. It's victims. But he's like, victim isn't the right word. He's like, you did this to you, not me, no one else. But then he also smiles, that evil smile, just like, I didn't know I was going to enjoy this, or I didn't think I was going to enjoy this. And he proceeds to try and bury her. And it's just like, okay, my mind immediately like, okay, there's one way, because, like, she has no backup. Obviously, Jim and Joe are dealing with the Dr. Reynolds thing currently, so there's no way. And also, they have no idea what Bernadette's going through right now. So I was like, man, she literally has no backup. No one's going. I was like, well, Ivan, he does feel guilty about the whole situation, so he could be the one to kind of help save her. But Bernie was like, nah, I got this myself. Because the moment she looked at the feather, I was like, is she going to use that to kind of unlock the handcuffs and kind of pick the lock or something? But it's like, no, she used a tire iron to break, like, part of the steering wheel, so the, like, kind of the bits of the steering wheel kind of pull the rubber bit off of the steel piece, and that allowed her to just kind of slip it through the rubber piece and got out. I was like, oh, hell yeah, because Budge comes back and he's like, where is she? And I was like, oh yeah, she sneaks up on him, whack. I was like, yeah. And then they have a little tussle, and she stabs him in the neck. I got super hyped. I was like, yeah. After everything he's done, good. He's finally been put down. And I love his final line, him just laughing and being like, this shouldn't be happening. This can't happen, or this shouldn't be happening, and dies. I was like, I also love that the feather did come into place. It's what she used to stab in the neck. I'm like, yes. And but then Ivan shows up, which I think it's better. Like it would have helped Ivan a little bit more if he was the one that kind of ended up helping rescue her. But I think it's also important that Bernadette got herself out of that situation because, she shows that she's resourceful and she handled that situation. She is the one, I mean, it's also befitting because she's the one that pushed for this investigation. She was the one trying to unravel the truth. So it felt perfect to kind of nip this in the bud type of situation. So I thought that was fascinating. But yeah, Ivan has to convince her. It's like, if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead right now, right next to Budge. I took the money, but I never co-signed all this other stuff. I am sorry. But it's like, we need to go right now because they're going to be clearing Spencer Ranch and all the evidence you're going to need to take them down is going to disappear if we don't go now. And so she works with him. I was like, there's not enough time to call the feds right now with everything because everything's happening so fast. So Ed, which I didn't know Ed and Tom Spencer were in-laws. Because it turns out Tom is married to Ed's sister. Maybe that came up earlier in the season and I don't remember them reference. I don't think they referenced it. It might have been the first time they referenced that, but it might be a thing of if they did mention it, it only came up once. Because any other time Ed came up, he never the whole being family thing. So he's extra motivated to help out Tom in that regard because it's like, oh, you're my brother-in-law. But Tom, his wife is sick and she's in a very bad condition. They lost children. They have a grandchild. And it's a situation of things weren't going well. They unraveled after everything, but she started doing the ranch books. She's the reason she started cooking the books. And that's why they were able to do what they did. And she's the reason why we kept afloat. And this whole operation has just been kind of trying to make up for all of that. His wife got sick and it's just, Ed's like, yo, we might need to take a step back. And he's like, Ed, I pay you to protect me, not give me advice. And it's like, okay. So he goes to the ranch with Garza. They're doing their thing. And the moment Ed got in the car, I'm like, someone's in the car. I didn't know if it was going to, my money was going to be on Bernadette. But then also when that guy got in the truck, I was like, someone's already in the truck, aren't they? And it's like, yeah, it ended up being Bern in the truck. It ended up being Ivan with Ed. And I love when she has a gun on Garza and Garza says, I'm sorry. And just I was like, come on, knock her out. And Bernadette hit her with the right. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. It's like, nah, fuck. And even Bernadette said it herself. She said, fuck you. I was like, hell yeah, dude. Because it's like, yeah, you were her friend and you betrayed her, And you co-signed, not only did you betray her in general by instead betraying everything that you guys stand for with the badge, but also you were co-signing Budge killing her. You served her up on a silver platter, So I also love the reveal about the truck situation because Bernadette looks in and is like, I'm just seeing oil. So she sticks a flashlight in, but she hits something. I'm like, is it so packed in there that the drugs are at the top? How's that work? And then there's a sliding compartment that I was like, oh, that's actually genius. Because now in retrospect, she kept being like, how are they getting the drugs by? Because I was like, are they putting it in the oil? But then we find out, no, the oil is in a little, on top of something. It's like a little slide thing. They pour oil on it so that it looks like, on just visual look, you'd assume it's just a tanker full of oil. But it's a small compartment that you just push it and the drugs are all underneath it. Fine. I'm like, that's interesting. So that all came unraveled and yeah, when it's all said and done, now they end up calling the cops. And, not cops, sorry. Well, yes, fellow cops. I'm assuming it's the feds. They called in and everyone gets arrested except for Ivan because I guess, he accepted the payment, but, probably any testimony he can give about Ed and Garza and the whole operation, they'll probably, give him a slap on the wrist. Because he does at the end go back into the department. Because I'm like, what do you do about that whole department now? Because three of your cops were on the take. Two were really heavily involved. One was just getting paid off, but still. And to be fair, it's not everyone in that department was corrupt. I mean, there might have been more people, but it hadn't come up yet. So it was only these three. So I don't think anyone else in the department was compromised. But it's also of course, Bernadette's not going to stick around. There's too much. It's right, she needed to get away from home. This new opportunity ended up kind of biting her in the butt at the end of the day because of this, and it's just like, why would I stick around here? So I don't know if Ivan's going to be taking over that department or whatever, because obviously he wasn't in his uniform, so it might be a thing of he might have been fired or on, like, I don't know, because it's like, I don't know, maybe he was packing up his desk or whatever. I don't know, because he definitely didn't have his uniform on anymore. Like, but Bernadette was still wearing hers at the end, so that's why I kind of get the feeling like they probably let him go. Like, he's going to probably suffer some ramifications, like he got fired, probably no getting a job at other law enforcement, or he's still keeping the job, and like I said, he'll take over the, I don't know. We don't really know where the Ivan of it all stands. We just know that Bernadette's not sticking around. And it's like, he's like, what are you going to do? She's like, I'm going to pray. And if I have anything left over for you, I'll pray for you too. And he's like, I didn't plan to fall in love with you. Can I convince you to stay? And she's just like, no. And it's like, yeah, screw that. You lied to her. You kind of also like put her in a position to get killed. I mean, to be fair, he was trying to protect you. He tried to do the right thing, but it's like, you should have done the right thing from the beginning. But, so. But all she was concerned about was getting that family back home. After all this, they were finally able to get back home, which is kind of bringing it all full circle, and kind of Bernadette promising to help them, and she did. Which, keeping promises, we catch up with George and Jim, and the person they're driving by, I think that's the teacher from the school, and her just being like broke down on the side of the road, like giving those eyes to both George but more specifically Jim, be like, I see you. And he just kind of laughs like, oh, it's funny how life works out these ways. And he brings George home, and George, like, he looks mad. It's like, don't worry about what he looks like, it's about how he feels, and I'm sure he's glad for you to be home, but just also be glad you don't have your dad's face. And George kind of laughs, and his brother embraces him, and Shorty's like, yeah, the horses need tending to. I was like, really? And he's like, hey, George. And he goes over and gives him like the half side hug. I legitimately burst out laughing because it's like, Shorty doesn't know how to show his feelings. I was like, I get it. I was like, but that's the funniest thing ever. But yeah, he's like, now go. And he's like, yo, Jim Chi, you keep your promises. And as he's about to leave, he was like, hey. And then all Jim does is look at him. Shorty, he says it all with his eyes, where he's not, he's not once again, he's not the type that wears his heart on his sleeve, but Jim just kind of smiles, kind of being like, I know, dude. Like, he doesn't say it, but it's kind of like an exchange of, you want to thank me? I get it. You're welcome, dude. We're good. We're obviously, like, this season was showing like, yo, they're both in a better place when it came to each other. So that was nice in a grand scheme of things. Jim, like, doing some, I think, like, giving like hay and stuff to like the horses, and lo and behold, who shows up? Bernadette. Yep, she's back home for good this time. And so that's going to be nice having her back. But also, I think it sets up her and Jim, like, we can pick well where we were left off, and we're both kind of staying now. So he kind of left at the end of season 1 and came back in season 2, and she kind of left at the end of season 2. Now she's back at the end of season 3. So it feels very befitting. So it's going to be interesting to see what the future kind of holds for them as they kind of figure things out going forward. But I think we're going to be good. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, fully working together. Because, I mean, they were doing their thing in season 1, but it's like, and there was a little bit of in season 2, but like now it's like we're full. Like, what does this dynamic fully look like? Us fully working together, being whatever we are. If they decide, and the smiles and looks towards each other seem like I'm back, and we should give this another shot. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But we also have the ending where Joe is talking to his dad, and his dad's kind of like, maybe Emma will be. He's like, it was a whole conversation about Joe saying like there was going to be a price to pay for what I did, and that price was Emma. And he's like, I accept that, which Henry was like, I didn't, so why should you? And it's like doing what he did, as Joe kind of figured out a couple episodes ago, on some subconscious level he already knew, but coming to terms with it at the same time he's battling his own darkness. It kind of made Joe's kind of like wanting to let things lie where they are, because it's like, if Emma comes back or not, that is on her, but I've kind of got to accept things as is, because I made my bed, I got to lie in it. Now, when Sylvia pops up at the very end, I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? Because this is the last thread to deal with. And so she tells Joe, like, I forgot what, I'm also missing it now. He made some kind of slight joke and she's like, oh, that's funny. He's like, thank you. I don't remember what it was now, but she's like, let me like lay all the cards on the table. I know you killed BJ Vines. I know how you did it. I know why you did it. And she's like, a lot of people would congratulate you, like would say like they understand why you did what you did, and even say like, right, you were justified and righteous in doing what you did. I'm not one of those people. Now, I think, and I've said this before, Emma kind of got at it last episode too, that yes, like if it was any other situation, if it was someone else other than BJ Vines, would you be going this far? Not really. But at the end of the day, it's still the thing of Joe did do a wrong thing. And regardless of the person who like he did it towards, it's still the thing of you did this wrong thing. You should be punished for it. But I legally cannot prove in the eyes of the law that you did do this, even though I know you did it and everyone knows you did it. You know I know you did it, but I can't do much about it, you know? But she leaves him something and he's like, what is this? She's like, hopefully it'll put you on the right track, back on the right track. Because she recognizes, once again, she understands why he did what he did. Because even Joe was like, she's like, I don't side with what, I don't, not congratulate, but I don't co-sign what you did. And he's like, I didn't think, I'd be surprised if you did, because it's also, once again, you're coming out from, I mean, not only is like, this is a native situation, the way BJ handled things here, and it was native children, there were native people that were killed, and you're a white woman outside of the reservation talking about kind of reservation business, and it's a back and forth situation where it's like, once again, I understand where Sylvia's coming from. It's the thing of our protagonist is Joe, so we're going to side with Joe, but you also understand, like, from Sylvia's perspective, if Sylvia was our protagonist, we'd be like, well, yeah, she has to take down Joe. He did a bad thing, no matter how justified he might have been. Even people you can understand why they did what they did still have to suffer the consequences for it. But it's the thing of, she recognizes that Joe's a good guy and he did a bad thing. And even though he might not suffer for it, she's hoping that what she left can put him back on the right path. And I think he already was going down that right path, but I think this is to make it so that he never steers down that wrong path again. I was so curious what it was that she left with him. At first I was like, oh, is it going to be set up for season 4? It kind of technically is, but it's Emma's interview and her saying all that she said and last episode, and it hitting Joe hearing all that, and her saying like how Joe kind of left her alone, and that it's like she maybe hopes that one day she can forgive him, but for now she has to walk alone. And Joe keeps rewinding it. I hope I can one day forgive him. Rewind. I hope one day I can forgive him. Because I think for Joe, he wasn't sure if that was even possible. But it's also like, right, this house is so empty. My son's gone. Like, all that's kind of overwritten by like the shadow of what I did to BJ, but that's always going to stick with me. That stain is always going to be there. But also hearing Emma's voice, but also hearing her specifically say, I hope one day I can forgive him. He wasn't sure if that ever would be a thing of, would she ever come back? And for him, this opens the door of, maybe she will. I can hold out hope that if I can make things better, if I can make things right, if I can be better when the time comes, maybe Emma can come back. If I can open my heart and be there for her, even though I failed her this time, maybe I can make things right in the future. So holding out that hope. So obviously kind of a very sad note to end the season on, but it also kind of like, at least for Joe, I think it is that sliver of hope, but there's also that, he was fine with the price being paid, but now it's just kind of like a, yeah, but it's hitting him more and more in this moment. So great way to wrap up the season, as usual, wrapping up all these different storylines. As I was talking about before, what this all means for season 4, because the show was renewed before the 3rd season even started. So I like early renewals like that. I hate like always like, oh, either waiting to the last second to reveal it, or whether it's like, you still don't know even when the season finale happens. So you always have to keep an eye out, because to me, that's a little worrying, because you're like, I get it. You're trying to calculate like ratings and stuff like that to decide whether or not a show continues or not. But I always prefer early renewals. Probably not always the best idea, but I prefer it just like it just eases my soul. Like, okay, good. Then at least the next season's guaranteed type of thing, rather than like a show being in that limbo phase is always the worst. But either way, I'm excited to see what next season ends up being, what the case ends up being. Obviously, Joe in the aftermath of all this, what it means for him. Um, you know, will we even catch up with Emma at all next season is a big question I have. But like what Joe goes about changing in the aftermath of all of this. He kind of got away with the BJ thing, but like I said, it's still there. Like he knows what he did, and that's stuck with him, and that's not going away. But it's about coming to terms with you still having that with you and carrying it for the rest of your life. Maybe we will see Emma in the confines of him trying to make things right with her. Like I said, the Jim and Bernadette of it all, what that development looks like going forward. It's kind of like Emma left, but now Bernadette's back. And I could definitely see Bernadette like sticking around Joe a lot more in the aftermath, especially now that Emma's gone. But she's probably going to have questions too about why Emma left, but probably doesn't want to prod too much. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what season 4 has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time. Oh, really quickly, I something else I completely forgot to talk about. I'm curious if this is going to be a thread that comes back or not. Is we see that Tom Spencer has relocated. I'm assuming he's out of the country. He's in somewhere else, probably with no U.S. extradition. Maybe, maybe not. Because obviously Ed and Garza got arrested along with other people too. So they'll probably turn state's evidence against Tom Spencer. But once again, it depends on if they're able to track him down. Because like I said, the place he is might not have extradition. So they might not cough him over to the U.S. We'll see how that shakes up and if that ends up being a thing. Because he insulated himself enough as he was telling Ed so that none of it will fall back on him. And even if word spreads, like might not be any legal evidence that ties them together. Even if Ed and Garza say anything to lessen their own sentences, there might not be enough to really go after Tom. Like I said, even excluding any extradition type of stuff. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be a future thread that gets pulled on, or whether we just kind of leave that as is, because that storyline just is where it is, and there's nothing that can really be done. So that is something I almost let slip my mind on whether or not that'd be a future storyline. So we'll keep an eye out next season to see if that ends up being something we revisit or not, whether it's in a big capacity or small capacity. Because I'm sure for Bernadette, she wouldn't want Tom to just get away because he was responsible for all that stuff. So that's why I feel like it will continue, but also it's just like it's in the Fed's hands now, so it's nothing Bernadette can do. So, but yeah, like I said, we'll wait to see. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about this time. I'm finally shutting up. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.